Currently, President Zelensky of Ukraine has stated that Russia may soon launch a reinvasion through Belarus, leading to speculation that Russia might be targeting Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. Today, let's take a closer look at this issue. Let's get started. President Zelensky of Ukraine stated that Russia is actively trying to draw Belarus into the war. He also warned that just like in the war in Ukraine in 2022, a new offensive operation is being prepared from Belarusian territory. President Zelensky revealed that Russia is considering using Belarus as a base to attack Chernihiv and Kyiv in Ukraine, or even NATO member countries. President Zelensky of Ukraine said the country is ready to respond firmly and has ordered the military to strengthen the northern border. President Zelensky claims Russia is trying to involve Belarus in the war, and a reinvasion could occur through Belarus. We will have to wait and see whether President Zelensky's words are true, but it is clear that Belarus's movements are unusual. According to United 24 reports, Belarusian President Lukashenko stated that after a large-scale military inspection, Belarus will mobilize military units by sector to prepare for possible combat operations. President Lukashenko also led a separate meeting on Belarus's national weapons program for 2026 to 2030. At the meeting, officials also discussed future military procurement and defense spending. Above all, there have also been observations of the Belarusian military constructing artillery positions and military facilities near the Belarus-Ukraine border. What's even stranger is that in mid-February 2026, a sudden order was issued to mobilize reservists throughout the entire western region of Belarus. According to vivid exposés posted on social media by locals who risked their lives and experienced the situation firsthand, residents who received mobilization notices from the military authorities were given coercive orders to report immediately, without even a few hours of notice. Pavel Latushko, a key opposition figure who closely monitors the situation in Belarus, revealed in an emergency interview with Ukraine's major broadcaster Kyiv 24 that the speed and coercive nature of this recent reservist mobilization was completely different from the usual reservist training conducted in the past. Pavel Latushko's specific cases highlight the situation's seriousness even more. A resident received a mobilization notice at 10 p.m. and was ordered by military authorities to report unconditionally to the reservist training center by 8 a.m. the next day. These irrational and sudden large-scale forced mobilizations are taking place simultaneously in various cities and towns across the western region of Belarus. It is even reported that as soon as reservists arrive at the training center, the military authorities forcibly confiscate their personal cell phones, thoroughly cutting off all communication with the outside world. As a result, residents confined in the training centers were unable to inform their families about where they were going or what kind of training they were receiving. Key suspicion is that, per the official Belarusian military schedule in mid-February 2026 when this happened, no reservist trainings were planned. The very fact that civilians were suddenly called up at night when there was no regular training scheduled is highly significant. The Belarusian government has officially downplayed the situation, calling it just an unannounced readiness check. According to the official statement from the Belarusian Ministry of Defense, they said this was merely a routine measure to check the regular combat readiness of military units. However, reports from local front lines and border areas reveal the government's announcement is completely deceptive. In the process of issuing summons orders to the individuals, they set extremely tight deadlines of just a few hours, and those who were suddenly required to report received no detailed explanation about future movement orders or operational plans. International military intelligence agencies believe the Belarusian government's unusual actions cannot be dismissed as a mere surprise drill. Military experts now cautiously suggest this sudden mobilization could signal a major national mobilization order to launch a full attack on Ukraine's northern front and the NATO border. There are also assessments that the Belarusian military authorities are ultimately testing whether the administrative procedures for forcibly conscripting civilians and the military supply system operate smoothly in real time under the assumption of an actual full-scale war. Then why is Russia trying to take such a gamble? Currently, the situation in the Ukraine war is not going well for Russia. In fact, during the month of April alone, Ukraine reclaimed more territory than Russia occupied. This is the first time in about 3 years since the Ukrainian military's counteroffensive operation in 2023. For 3 years, the Russian military occupied territory, but now the situation is reversed. In April, the Ukrainian military launched offensives at several frontline points, reclaiming about 40 square kilometers each in Zaporizhzhia, Kharkiv, and Donetsk. The U.S. Institute for the Study of War said this was possible because Starlink terminals are blocked and robot units are active. In February, when the United States suddenly blocked Russia's access to Starlink terminals, the Russian military lost communications. The problem is that this happened in February, but even after 3 months, communications have still not been restored. Attacks using drones have also become limited. With restrictions on communication between units, effective command and control have become impossible. As a result, they were even pleading for old-fashioned walkie-talkie radios. There are a few examples of this. There have been several instances of friendly fire incidents between Russian troops fighting near Kupiansk. Additionally, reports say the Russian army's electronic warfare systems are unintentionally disrupting their own radios, worsening efforts to set up new communications. Additionally, the Russian government has slowed down Telegram, making it harder to share operational or local updates. This structure forces frontline units to suffer. As a result, predictions now suggest it may take the Russian army over 30 years to occupy all of Donbass. Here, the Ukrainian army actively uses drone and robot units, but there is still a clear difference in scale between Russia and Ukraine. Because of this, even if the same losses keep happening, the structure was such that Russia was bound to win. So, to reduce these losses, they need to actively use unmanned systems. Currently, the Ukrainian army is suffering from a severe shortage of manpower. Because of this, they are actively utilizing unmanned equipment. Ukraine currently deploys a mixed manned-unmanned armored unit using one tank with a small unmanned armored vehicle for escort and simultaneous attack, along with drones. They use joysticks to attack Russian forces with drones, much like working at an internet cafe. Private air defense companies also control unmanned air defense turrets in cities from command and control centers, similar to internet cafes. They captured Russian positions using only unmanned ground vehicles and drones, the first time this has happened in human history. On top of that, the number of units using robots is gradually increasing, and they are being used in various fields, from key logistical support missions like ammunition supply and casualty evacuation to direct combat. In particular, at the end of 2025, only 67 military units were using robots, but as of March 2026, that number has increased by 100 to a total of 167 units. Also, in the summer of 2025, they even managed to capture Russian soldiers as prisoners using unmanned robots, which was the first time in human history. Ukrainian forces used remotely controlled robots from a safe zone several dozen kilometers away to attack Russian positions, causing demoralized Russian soldiers to surrender and drop their weapons. It was the moment when the image of war, which we had thought would only happen in the distant future, had already become a reality. The Ukrainian military leadership is labeling 2026 as a key turning point for unprecedented technological change in warfare history. Their internal objectives are so radical and aggressive, they completely overturn current military doctrines. The main point is a formidable plan to completely replace as much as 1/3 of the entire frontline infantry forces, who fight and bleed on the battlefield, with pure drones and autonomous ground robot systems. The reason behind the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense taking such drastic measures is a desperate calculation to overcome the severe shortage of human personnel caused by the prolonged full-scale war, by directly confronting it with advanced unmanned technology. If fully implemented, this innovative plan will significantly reduce the proportion of human soldiers directly deployed to frontline trenches and dangerous combat zones. Unmanned systems meant to fully replace humans are designed to handle all the most dangerous and high-risk battlefield missions. Across the board, machines will take the lead, from precision reconnaissance and fortress breakthroughs to heavy weapon support, replacing humans in monitoring enemy movements, penetrating strongholds, and providing overwhelming firepower. Unmanned ground vehicles and large drones will handle the most dangerous missions, like supplying front lines where casualties are highest and quickly evacuating wounded soldiers from the battlefield to safety. Pay special attention to the ground robot or unmanned ground vehicle in this plan as it overcomes aerial drone limitations. Existing aerial drones, which have been widely used, face significant physical limitations in maintaining continuous firepower or transporting large amounts of supplies due to battery life and payload capacity constraints. Ground robots with sturdy tracks and powerful engines can stay on the front lines longer and maintain constant firepower even when carrying heavy machine guns and anti-tank missiles. Able to carry up to 200 kg of heavy weapons and ammunition at once, they are crucial for boosting friendly forces' survival in intense short-term battles and trench warfare. As a result, more analysis suggests Russia is trying to involve Belarus in the war and escalate the conflict to change the current situation. But the problem is that Belarus has entered the war, and Poland has declared that it will attack Belarus, so there is definitely concern that the war could escalate to an even larger scale.